Hello, YouTube! It is I, Travis the Pagan Scholar, here with an episode of Tarot and Poetry. Finally! I know it's been a while, I'm just going to dive straight into this and we can talk about why it's taken me this long after we're done with the video. The card for this video is the Chariot. My authority on the topic is Binabel Wynn, Holistic Tarot. Her mentioning of the Chariot is: the theme of the Chariot is conquest and triumph over obstacles in the seeker's life. It suggests full control of the seeker's emotional faculties. The card affirms movement in the right direction. The seeker's current movement will lead to victory. The seeker is controlled, a master of self-control and self-assertion. When the Chariot card appears in a spread, it indicates great control over one's willpower. Totally dig that interpretation of the Chariot because I come from a philosophical background, and the Chariot that comes to mind the most to me comes from Plato's Phaedrus, and it's basically the Chariot is a metaphor for the soul. The Chariot is commandeered by, there's a charioteer, and he is driving two horses, a dark horse and a light horse. One horse represents celestial desires, to be one with the gods, to be a virtuous citizen and all that jazz. The other horse is only concerned with worldly pleasures, pleasures of the flesh, things like that. And so they struggle and they fight, and while you are flying this chariot through the sky around Mount Olympus, the two horses fight and crash the chariot, and it is the charioteer's job to have strong willpower and guide the horses to harness his passions. Ew, one time a church person told me that, to harness my passions, but a very straightforward card to grasp. It means willpower. However, while I do agree with that, I also have a couple of different other interpretations of the Chariot. For me, the Chariot has usually meant just transition, just movement. And I'm going to be bringing in a second authority for this. It is actually, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but Jamaica Highwater, or not Jamaica Highwater, but his actual name right here. The Language of Vision. This guy, he's kind of a plastic shaman. He is a plastic shaman, was a plastic shaman, but he wrote this book after he took back the fact that he was not a Native American, that he was only posing as one. In this book, he's talking more about literary theory than anything else, but the chapters of The Language of Vision are set up to where each chapter is a major arcana tarot card. And for the Chariot, blah blah blah, okay. Significantly, this card of the tarot deck is associated with perplexity and escape, an ideal symbol for the flights of imagination that have been the basis of the decline of artistic naturalism in the 20th century. I think that this is incredibly relevant because for me, the Chariot, it can take on so many different interpretations, and I do not read my tarot cards in terms of fortunes. I read them in terms of narratives. So for me, the Chariot is kind of this, be it towards a progressive good thing or backpedaling away from something out of fear. It doesn't matter, it just means movement, constant movement, the opposite of stasis. Even if it's running around in circles, that is still going to be not stasis. It's going to be like running from whatever fear. I mean, can you tell that I have a lot of anxiety in my life because a lot of my tarot cards end up meaning desperation to move away from something or towards something. Another interesting thing that Highwater said was, much as faltering religious faith deals with the obsolescence by assuming an unconditionally prosaic, literal, and fundamental stance, so literature, in facing the demise of certitude, has evolved a number of naive forms of realism that attempt to deny the fact that today's writers cannot describe the present or the future in the moribund language of the past. The fuck does that mean? Again, he's mostly writing about myth and literary theory. The Chariot, for him, means escape from reality for the arts, to break beyond the paradigm. It sounds like this awesome shadow work kind of thing going on, but I don't think that that's really it. It's more the struggle to deal with the fact that we can never truly communicate, and the previous ways of talking about literature or myth, or the previous ways of dealing with the struggles of life, with the dark nights of the soul. Those past models, they're expired, and they can't really work. They can't perform correctly in our world today. We see this in gender, we see this in racial issues, we see this in politics. Across the board, when you try to hold on to the past and a prosaic, literal interpretation, you're going to have your system break down. And so the Chariot, if it's moving forward, then that's good, but more often than not, it's more of this trying to disentangle oneself out of the struggles of an antiquated system that doesn't work anymore, that no longer serves you and your highest good, your best purpose, showing up as your truest self. There's lots of different ways that different people say it, but it's disentangling yourself from that. That's usually how I pick up the Chariot. Yeah, okay, let me talk about what the cards actually look like. God, this is gonna be an interesting video. Okay, in the Rider-Waite deck, we have the Charioteer. This card is rife. It is fraught. Fraught, that's such a great word, with symbolism, but the Charioteer has crescents on his shoulders. He has a star on his helmet. He has stars in his chariot. A square, maybe that's like sacred geometry or something. I believe those are zodiac signs on his belt. There's the lingam and the yoni on his chariot. Sexuality, the previous card is the lovers, so that is usually in there. The two sphinxes are black and white, symbolizing polarity, again tying into that Plato's Phaedrus chariot metaphor. And behind him is a city, representing he has moved beyond the city, maybe. I don't know, I'm just throwing that one in there. So, that is your Chariot card for the Rider-Waite. I'm actually going to go straight to the Night Sun tarot card because it is vastly similar. There's just a couple of extra things that I think are really groovy about this card. On the wheels of the Chariot are I Ching symbols, hexagrams, and the horses are actually horses, they're not sphinxes. He's holding she is holding a hourglass sideways, which I think would represent stasis. However, being able to control which way it goes, that might be progression of forward or backwards. And they're holding the lingam and the yoni on a staff, so that's kind of neat. And above them are some Hebrew letters, but that's like every card in the Night Sun. So a pretty neat card. Going on to the Fantasy Tarot deck, you actually have 3 horses, which I think is pretty neat. And this gigantic behemoth wall thing, I mean, it looks like something out of Magic the Gathering. I'm a nerd, a big surprise. Yeah, it's this gigantic behemoth of a chariot. It's like a moving city, and it's pulled by these magical Pegasus-like horses. I think that speaks to the gargantuan paradigms that we lug around with us. It's not just a person in the chariot, it's not just the soul, it's the entire weight of our histories and of our prejudices and of our entire, like, you know, zeitgeist that we carry around with us inside here that is being drawn by these horses. So, I don't know, maybe I'm totally stretching for that interpretation, but if it works, then awesome, cool. All right, on to poetry. I am going to read you one of my own poems. I know, wow, that's pretentious. I'm talking to my phone in my living room, assuming that people are going to listen to me, and that's kind of pretentious all by itself. So, because I do take the Chariot in so many different directions, since it can mean so many different things for me, it was really difficult for me to pin down one poem that I thought kind of exemplified the Chariot. Recently, went on vacation to do some soul searching, not quite, but this poem did come out of my vacation, and I thought that it was pretty neat, so I think it's pertinent to how I engage with the chariot, with that struggling to disengage oneself from a past paradigm. This poem is called The Road Out of Rome. Find the road out of Rome. These are fires you cannot put out. No one will judge you. It will not be betrayal. Recall how you moved before all that lichen grew up your shins. Take only what you can carry, the wind chime song that warns you of danger, the patience of leaves at dawn, cumulus foresight. Do not despair over the burning altars. There will be other gods to adore you. It is not so terrible, the road out of Rome. You are not the first, though this is your first time. The road welcomes all travelers. However, there are no maps. Perhaps this is why less travel her. And yet, the road out of Rome is not a road at all. What is a road but a progression towards a destination to suppose one arrives at undoing, at best, misses the point. At worst, pledges fatalism. The road out of Rome is merely available. It is your choice to go, or stay and burn. Okay, so, thank you for listening to that, I guess. When I was in Austin, I was sort of set adrift to do as I would. I had a couch to stay on every night, and I did go camping, but during the day, I was totally outside of my comfort zone because I was just sort of on my own doing whatever. It was very fun. I had a great time doing it, but I was sort of thinking, like, why am I so bound up inside myself? Why am I so trapped between these two ears? Why am I so concerned with all of this that is Travis? I was searching for a road out of myself. Then I was sort of conflicted, like, why am I looking for a road out of myself? What's wrong with myself? Why can't I just stay here and put out all the fires, you know? So it was just kind of this juggling act, the two horses struggling against each other. But I don't know which one would be the celestial cause and what would be the earthly cause, which one would be to stay and which one would be to go. But it was a wonderful trip. I had a great time and I took some great photographs, in my opinion. You can check them out on my Instagram channel page, account. I think I was like a photographer in a past life, if those are a thing, because I've really had a great time just taking photographs of random stuff in the city. So that kind of helped me arrive at a better place, arriving with the chariot, moving away from myself, staying away, I don't know, all of this stuff. I'm gonna cut this short, okay? I really appreciate you watching these videos. I am sorry that this took so long to do, but I'm glad that it took this long, because if this video were not pressing in my thoughts, I might not have written that poem, and it felt good to do that again. I haven't written poetry in a while, like poetry for myself for a while. So next up is going to be the lovers. If you have suggestions for more videos, please leave them in the comments below. If you have comments on the poem itself, please, I am not a stranger to literary criticism, to poetry critiques. You can tell me my poetry was shit. It's okay. I've done it. I've heard it before. I'll fight you, but I've done it before. And yeah, so just let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And as always, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.